Hello, this is Charles Walsh again from Astral Connections, and here with me I have Corry Kouwenberg. Corry tells me he's really shy. Let's find out how shy he is. Hi, Corry.
Hello.
See, he's not that shy.
Not really, no.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What would you like to know?
Well, let's start the early days. Tell me about your life.
The early days, way back, like
your rowdy life.
my rowdy life. Oh, I've lived a very interesting life. I'm not quite sure how I made it this far yet. But actually,
tell us about the fun times.
The fun times? Oh my gosh, where do you want to start on that? Fun times, I guess, started when I was about 16 years old. I broke away from my parents.
Oh, jeez.
Got involved with some things I shouldn't have got involved in.
That's okay.
Yeah. And then just party till I was about 30, and then settled down a little bit.
What made you settle down?
The realization if I kept going, I'd probably die.
Okay.
That was a
good realization.
It was realistic, yeah. Also, it was a search. It was a search for. I was looking for something, and the acting out, the drinking, the partying, all that it's most people do it because they're looking for something.
That's true.
And most of the time, it's acceptance, family acceptance, or same thing with gangs and things like that. They're looking for something they don't have at home or didn't get at home.
That's right.
From their family.
Did you feel after leaving that you were able to search clearer, for lack of a word?
Not really. Not until about 10 years ago that I realized the path I was on and what it was all about. I mean, I went from partying to almost an extreme of religiosity. And then in that religiosity, I found focus in my internal self. In my,
like Christian?
It was Christian based, but I've gone through several religions, everything from being born into Catholicism to going into Protestant religion, Anglican.
Still all Christian though.
All Christian, Mormonism, which is also Christian, but most people don't think it is. But even there, and I learned most of my spiritual doctrine or my spiritual personal belief system from Mormonism.
Latter-day Saints.
Latter-day Saints, very interesting, very rigid, but yet
too, so.
Cool.
Yeah, it was interesting how I guess God is born and born again, in their theology, so to speak.
Well, yeah, they're called the God makers, because they believe, of course, that at a certain point after death, that everybody will be given the opportunity or most people will be given the opportunity to create another world just like this earth, and they will be the God of that universe and that world.
Right. Well,
that's why I joined.
You wanted to be the God of the universe?
I wanted to be a God of the universe.
So you didn't believe you were the God of the universe?
Not at that time.
Do you
no.
now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Yeah, now I believe we all have that. My representation of God is a circle. Just a circle.
It's limiting.
Well, no, actually it's eternal. If you look at a circle, it's eternal. It just keeps going. There's no start, there's no end.
That's true.
It's complete. And to me, everything that is God is that circle or within that circle. And there's nothing outside of that circle. And so everything is inside the circle.
So what's outside the circle?
Nothing. So if there's
so nothingness isn't God?
It's still God, but God is everything that is, and everything that is a part of God, and God is part of everything that is.
Absolutely. So, your spiritual journey, let's talk about that a little bit then.
Sure. My spiritual journey.
Yeah, where did you go from your search?
Well, from your
religiosity.
From my religiosity to my spirituality, well, it was kind of interesting. I was doing I got involved with a personal development company that sort of opened my mind a little bit. And then one of their speakers invited me to one of his seminars, which was a 5-day meditation retreat. And I got there, which was kind of interesting, and it was no talking. And I sort of went, nah, I can't do this. 5 days meditation, and no talking, I can't do this. And what we did is we did 12 meditations a day, lasted about 45 minutes each. And they were dyads, where two people would meditate together. And I was meditating on one question all weekend. And the question was, who am I? So I'd be meditating with you, and I'd ask you, who are you? And then you go into the process and you come up with an answer. Then you'd ask me. And we do this for 45 minutes, 12 times a day. And the rest of the time is reflection.
And reflection means sitting in silence, basically?
Sitting in silence, walking in silence, eating in silence. It was absolute silence. And I was doing a walking meditation at one point, and I came upon this tree, this big, huge tree, and I looked up at the tree, and there I saw Jesus Christ crucified on the tree.
Ouch.
It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then I looked a little closer, and I realized it was me. And it hit me. I'm him, he's me.
Yeah. Wow.
There is no separation.
No, that's right.
And
Wow.
bing, the light went on. So it's been an interesting journey since.
Okay, so tell me about this motivational
Motivation, well,
speaker that led you to the meditation group.
well, what do I tell you about what I learned?
Absolutely, tell me about what you learned.
And what I learned was that everything that we think about, everything that we do in life stems from a learning somewhere. We have no individual thoughts. We really don't have any individual actions. These are all things that people have put into our minds in one way, shape, or we're
People
programmed.
have put them into our minds, or we've put them into our own minds?
People have put them into
that's
hypnosis.
interesting.
It's mass hypnosis, and we're all
That's
being
an interesting
hypnotized,
theory.
and we're all hypnotizing people. At the well, let me give you an example.
Yeah, give me an example.
Give me an
'cause
example.
I'm getting the media perspective only, and that's probably not what you mean.
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Okay. So when you were little, right? Did your
You
mother
never told me I was an example.
did your mother ever tell you don't touch the stove because you'll burn yourself?
Probably.
Yeah, she did. I'm sure she did. Every mother, because you're in the kitchen with mom and you're sort of like, and you go near the stove. Don't touch that. It's hot.
My mom probably more than others. She fell into a teapot when she was young.
So let me ask you this. Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
On your stove, when the stove is turned off, are you 100% sure that the element is off?
No, I have to go and double check.
You have to double. How do you double check?
What do you mean, how do I double check?
How do you double check? No. What I'm saying is,
when
if
it's
it's in the off position,
I gotta touch it to double
yeah,
check.
you gotta touch it, right? But can you walk right up to the element and touch it? Put your hand right on it?
No, it's like slightly.
Yeah, and you've been doing that ever since your mother told you that.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been programmed to do that. It's the same thing when we learn how to walk. When you start to walk and you take your first step and you start to stumble, what do your parents tell you?
Be careful.
Be careful, don't hurt yourself. So every time in life you start to step out a little bit,
Be careful. Don't
be
hurt
careful, don't hurt yourself. It comes in. And those are all belief systems that we have, and everything in our life is based around those belief systems.
So that's what being involved with this motivational speaker and otherwise
Yeah.
taught you then.
Yeah, more or less he taught me, don't believe anything anybody says, don't even believe anything you say yourself. Because most of it's a bunch of malarkey.
So eliminate all beliefs.
Well,
Not quite.
not quite. Change the beliefs to what you want them to be in a positive nature.
Won't your beliefs always be changing then? 'Cause
Yes.
as you grow, then your beliefs
Yes,
will change.
yes, your beliefs will change. Which is neither good nor bad. It just is what it is, right? It's the same as the spiritual path. I don't believe I'm on the spiritual path anymore.
Okay. So you were on a spiritual path.
I was on the spiritual path.
And when did this spiritual path end then? When you saw Jesus on the...
When I realized I was God, yeah. So what's a spiritual path all about?
Finding God.
Finding God. So if you're God and God's within you, and you know that, have you found
You're
God?
done. You're done.
Now the trick is
To live God.
to live the God and to allow that power, that spiritual power to unfold in your life. And that's what happened to all the masters, Buddha, Krishna, all these, Jesus Christ, and all these spiritual masters recognized the God within themselves, and the next thing you know, they could walk on water, or fly, or turn water into wine. It's because they unleashed the God within. And once you unleash the God within, it's like turning on, it's equivalent today, we can call it today, is turning on the switch in quantum physics. Because quantum physics is very much similar to that. It's about Reality not being...
Manifesting through nothing, basically.
Yeah. Reality is not what you see it to be. You can create your reality, but it takes work, and it takes energy.
Why does it take work? I need to know.
Why does it take work?
Yeah, it shouldn't take work.
Well,
if you're God, it should be instantaneous. There's no time.
It can be. It can be instantaneous, and it can be...
Why can't it be instantaneous now, then?
It can, but you have to tap into it.
So then you're not God yet, because if you were God, then you would
But
have
you are
already
God.
tapped into
But
it.
it's when we're brought into this world, when we get born into any world, a veil goes over our godliness. It's like a bushel basket being put over the light, as Jesus Christ would say in the Bible. And so we spend our whole life trying to take that bushel off of us. We're looking for something. In essence, most people tell you they're looking for something special, and you can bring it down to looking for the true meaning of life, or godliness, or spirituality. Yes. And so we spend our whole life trying to unveil or take this bushel off of us. And that you would think is actually the hard part. It actually wasn't the hard part. The hard part was covering up the godliness. We covered it up so well, and now it's harder to take off.
So now you just know you're God. You're not living God then.
Well, yeah, I live God to a point. I think we all live God to a point.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean the flowers live God to a point. I do healing, and I do healing in several different modalities. And they're all the same, though. They all work out to be the same thing. It's about creating something. So
what took you to the healing path then?
The same thing, the same nature. I've been healing actually since I healed myself. When I was 6 years old, I got struck by a baseball bat. And
somebody hit you with a baseball?
Somebody hit me. I was playing baseball. I was a catcher. I stood up and I got cracked right in the skull. Even though it was a big 8-year-old though. So I fractured my skull. I was bleeding the whole night, and I started taking epileptic seizures, grand mal seizures. Yeah, every 3 months, 4 hours, gone, history. Defecate myself. And so I'd have to go to the doctor every 3 months or so, every 6 months for a checkup and an EEG once in a while. And when I was about 14 years old, I was on medication, Dilantin and phenobarbital 3 times a day. And when I was about 14 years old, 13, 14 years old, I went to a doctor for one appointment. And my mother asked the doctor, she would go with me and ask the doctor, how is this going to affect his life? The truth. The doctor said 3 things. I remember this. It's about one of the few things I remember from my youth. The doctor said, well, he's never going to have a steady relationship with a woman or family. He's never going to be able to hold a job, and he'll never be able to drive a car. Well, one of those things really got to me. I mean, that was going to change my whole life. If I can't drive a car, I don't want to live. So I went home. And I told I said...
I was going to choose that one, but then I thought, no, he's got more sense than that.
And so, I wish. I went home, and I thought about this, and I meditated in my own way at that time. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. I said, I refuse to have this happen. So I'm going to stop taking my medications. I'm going to stop being epileptic. In essence, is what I did.
I did.
And I never had a seizure afterwards. Yeah. So there's several occasions. In the Mormon Church also we were involved in a lot of hands-on healing. And I've worked with 2 people who were going in for operations on cancer tumors. Mm-hmm. One had a brain cancer, I think the other one had lung cancer, if I remember correctly. And the lady with the brain tumor went in, and of course they take x-rays before you go through. We laid hands on her, and a week later she had no more tumor.
So define laying hands.
We would put our hands on someone's head and just offer a blessing or a prayer, and basically invoke a blessing upon them of health and clarity, and removing the infirmity. And it works. It works in a lot of cases. And so now
probably works in every case.
I won't say that. I won't say it works in every case, because in certain situations, my belief is that in certain situations, the life we're in, that we've chosen to come to, has bumps and bruises along the way. Mm-hmm. And we choose the bumps and bruises before we get here.
And the exit point, probably.
And the exit point as well, yeah. And we don't know these things, again, because if you knew all these things, it wouldn't be much fun. The ride would be over, right. Basically. It's the challenge. It's like going to a football game and not counting score. what's the use in essence, in one way, of going to a professional football game if nobody's going to count score? So, in as much as I believe that, I believe that certain things in our lives we're meant to get over. But these are major challenges that are internal to our spiritual nature. And so it's not always easy to get over them. And sometimes we need to go through them to learn something on the other side of it. And so to have that infirmity removed, it's not going to happen, because your internal, your godlike nature says, no, that's going to stay there. In order to get here, you've got to go through that.
So then prayer works absolutely.
Yes, semantics, yes, it works absolutely.
The prayer earlier basically took precedence over the prayer that came at this point, I guess.
Right. See, that's a word also. That's also a word that now in my new belief system, prayer to me is something that you ask for, whereas to me a healing, which is a spiritual thing,
something you receive,
is something that you basically have a right to.
That's true. Healing is something you have a right to.
Yeah. You have, being born into this life, you have the right to be happy, joyful, and healthy.
But prayer is also asking for what you have a right to. It's just because the way people ask it in some cases.
Then you're giving somebody power over it.
You're only giving yourself power because you're God, right?
So, in essence, why don't we just walk down the street talking to ourselves?
Why don't we?
I do.
I do too.
So basically, again, it's semantics. What prayer is, it's to me. I pray I do something that I equate to praying, and setting intentions, manifestation.
Like prayer is pride without an intention, right? That's the whole story. You can't pray without an intention and without love.
Love. There's the biggest key in everything and anything. And we're talking about healing.
Yeah.
I call it consciousness. I like to use consciousness, which is to me is love. True love, being completely conscious of another, or of yourself, or something. To be completely conscious of that. When you're in consciousness, anything can be done with that, because that energy is the energy. I used to read the Bible quite intently. And then one day I was reading the Bible and it clicked on. Peter asked Jesus Christ, what is the greatest of all commandments? And Jesus Christ says, to love the Lord thy God with all your might, mind, and soul. Second unto it is love thy neighbor as thyself. He covered everyone. God, you, and your neighbor. And in essence, if you can do that, you've got it made.
You've got it covered.
Yeah, you've got it made.
So what does Corry do these days?
Corry does a little bit of this.
We talked about energy healing, we talked about your life. What does Corry do these
Well,
days?
I'm sort of in the middle of a dual PhD in neuropsychology and integrative healing in medicine, which includes healing in everything from Kabbalic yoga up through neurolinguistic programming and some energy healing arts. I'm a teacher in Reiki. I do matrix energetics, which I really enjoy doing.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Matrix or Reiki?
Both.
I'd rather talk about matrix. Okay. I find I can do it.
Don't they go hand in hand?
They do. However,
or can they?
They do. However, matrix I can do in 2 minutes what takes a good Reiki practitioner to an hour and a half to do.
Can you talk a little bit as to why that could be, or?
Because it's right down to the brass tacks. With Reiki, it's a lot of symbolism. It's a lot of tradition. It's a lot of
culture.
Yeah, and so I call my healing, what I do, the whole conglomeration, solutions-focused healing. That's with one S in focused. And for those of us that don't know. And it's all about solutions. Like, people come to me, I don't care where or what happened to you. Let's fix you. I mean, going to a psychologist for 6 months.
Doesn't anyone who goes to a healer looking for a fixing of some kind?
Well, that's just it. Are you looking for a cure, or are you looking for a healing? because there's two different things.
That's true.
You know, a cure is when you have an ailment and you want it gone. A healing is getting rid of the cause of it.
Right.
So as opposed to just the symptoms, which we do.
By definition, though, cure would mean getting rid of the.
No. If I go to if I have a skin.
Because cure means gone, completely gone, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
If I go to a doctor, right, and I have an itch on my arm, and he gives me some skin cream, and that itch goes away, but comes up here, and it's an issue with my blood. Or
So he's just dealt with the symptom,
he's dealt with the symptom.
not the cure.
Not the cure, but he's cured the symptom.
Yeah.
And so the difference is in a healing and a cure, to me, people are looking at symptoms in their life.
Right, I see what you're saying.
And the symptom is not necessarily an evaluation of what the issue is. To me, here, healing, the way I look at healing is more spiritual, whereas a cure is more physical.
Okay. So, but don't they go hand in hand? Won't they have to go hand in hand? Won't you have to also deal with the physical ailment as well as the...
No.
No.
Just the opposite. I think if you can work with the spiritual and the emotional issue,
the physical
automatically takes care of itself. In most situations. If it isn't too bad already, or if it hasn't gone too far.
Okay, well, let's say if someone broke their leg, for example.
If they broke their leg?
You won't have time to do spiritual healing on them.
Yes, actually you do, yes.
You do?
Matrix energetics, which is based on quantum physics, also is spiritual in its nature because it uses consciousness to actually work on the process. Mm-hmm. And if somebody breaks their leg, I believe, this is my belief, and this is not just my belief, it's that somewhere,
mine too at some level.
Yeah, somewhere in your life there's been a trauma, an emotional or spiritual trauma that's affected you today in a breaking of the leg. But people say, but that's an outside circumstance. It's irrelevant. It's all part of the same flow. There is nothing.
It's the micro versus the macrocosm.
Sure. Like people look at you and I, they'll look at you and I on this video, they'll see nothing between us but the screen. Right. But actually there's something between us that's connecting us.
Absolutely.
And there's energy, there's air, there's particles that actually keep flowing, and from you to the table to everything else in the room, to everything else in the universe. And so that trauma that I experienced 5, 10, 15, 20, 35, 40 years ago may come out in my leg today.
Yeah,
in that sense.
you can see the logic of that.
Yeah. Most of it will come out, the experts will tell you now that almost 85 to 95% of all back pain is caused by stress. Mm-hmm. But the stress isn't necessarily just today's stress. Which we don't really
have a definition of anyway.
No.
What the hell is stress?
Yeah. Stress is, I think stress is trauma that the emotion, that the mind or the emotional mind can't handle. Right. But we can. But it just, we protect.
We pretend not to be able to handle it. Maybe.
Stress to me, for instance, back pain is the same as if you cut yourself. Your body all of a sudden instantaneously starts doing things and sending white corpuscles to the cut, it starts healing and coagulating, and everything starts working to close it and to keep it healthy. It's the same thing when you have an emotional pain or spiritual pain within the core of your being. All of a sudden, you start getting back pain because your spiritual nature puts the pain outside of you, so that you focus on something different than the hurt and the pain.
So, are you then saying that the physical, whatever it is, the ailment, the pain, the injury, is a manifestation of something that's happened?
Mostly, yeah. I would say 95%.
Spiritually prior to that?
Yeah, 95%. When I do matrix with people, a lot of times, well, in the belief system is one exposure, and in the therapy and the psychological therapy is another exposure that talks about that. You know, your past affects your present. Your belief system affects how you look at things today. How everybody looked at you, and you know they looked at you in that way, affects how you believe. The same with my matrix healing. I will go back in time to I get pulled into exactly, like I can look at people. I do a specific thing that I look at people and scan them, and I can tell you what's wrong with you. I'll go right to these spots in most cases. And people go, wow. And what happens is, like I'll see a pain in your shoulder, for instance, and I'll say, well, all of a sudden I'll go back and I'll do the numbers, and I'll go, at 23 years old, you had an injury, a trauma, some sort of a trauma in your life, not necessarily physical.
So what are you doing, dowsing to get there? I need to know now.
Actually, that's really interesting, because energetics is a process. How I get to this point, I don't have the slightest idea how I did this, because I see people and I see the things wrong with them, but I don't see anything. Somebody told me once it's intuitive. It's not intuitive, it's more than intuition. It's a knowingness of what is going on in their body. Sometimes I've seen lights, but in most situations I just know. Like I'll just view the person, and all of a sudden I'll go right there. Sometimes I'll go to my body. I'm willing to bet
anything that, let's say this, you as a matrix energetics practitioner versus someone else as a matrix energetics practitioner, although the theories are the same.
The process is the same, yeah.
Or the process is the same, methodology is probably different.
Yes, Richard Bartlett, who's the founder of Matrix Energetics, once said when I was talking with him, he says, Corey, he said, if you're trying to do it like me, you're doing it the wrong way. Yeah. Do it the way you need to do it. Just understand the process, what's happening, and then go from there. And the biggest thing that you need to do when you do it is have fun. Have fun, and unfortunately, don't focus on the outcome, because the outcome is different. This is what I tell people I work with. Don't focus on your pain. Don't look for your pain to be released, because if you keep focusing on your pain, you can recreate it. Yeah. You can recreate it, recreate it, recreate it. Focus on what's different in your body, what's changed in your mind, what's changed in your heart. Because if you keep, and I'll quote Richard again, if you keep focusing and trying to heal a heart condition, you're just going to make it a better heart condition.
So, that's interesting.
Well, it's like flus that we have today. We keep trying to beat these flus,
but they keep getting worse.
They keep getting better. The flu keeps getting stronger and better. And so now instead of a 3-day flu or a 24-hour flu, we get a flu for a month.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty... Yeah, I don't know if our focus on the flu is making it worse, though.
No,
it's got to be other aspects as well.
I'm talking.
Affect it, but
with regard to pharmacology, we start creating antibiotics to work on these flus, so the bugs start changing and adapting to these drugs that we're giving, that people are taking, and so the more drugs you give, the better the flu bug gets.
Right.
The more drugs.
There's adaptation in each case.
That's right. Yeah. So exactly. Well, man is adapted to his environment, and everything in the environment adapts to man.
That's what Darwin said.
No, I said that.
Okay, was it you? Okay. So would you be able to give us like a mini demonstration? A mini demonstration?
I can. Sure.
Nothing's wrong with me, so I don't know what you're going to do. But.
Well, it doesn't have to be if there's anything wrong with you, or if there's well-being.
Have the odd issue.
You know, it can be just for clearing. It can be just for the exhilaration of, because most of my clients will tell me that they have a feeling of exhilaration when they. Oh, hello. They have an exhilaration, feeling of exhilaration when I work with them.
Feeling of exhilaration.
Exhilaration, yeah. Exhilaration, is that correct, the word?
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't ask me about the spelling though, I just learned that
Focused
you might be a better speller than I.
My spell check is a better speller than you and I. Sure, I'd love to give you a quick demonstration, but we'll have to stand up and bring a chair.
To stand up.
You want to stand behind the chair, please? This is Dr. Phillips. She's here to make sure nobody gets hurt. So if you'll just stand in front of the chair.
Am I facing you?
Facing me, just like that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is what's called a 2-point. And the 2-point is I'm going to be pulled or attracted to 2 parts of your body. And I'm going to connect the dots, basically.
We're on camera, be careful.
Yeah, we're going to connect the dots. And in connecting the dots, basically I'm going to be creating a waveform to throw into your waveform, because this is all energy.
Right.
And so it's like a big pond of energy. and I'm going to throw a ripple into that pond, like throwing a stone into your pond. And what this does, in a lot of cases, it affects people in different manners. However, it always has some sort of a reaction. If I take a stone and throw it into a pond, it's guaranteed to do what?
Ripple.
Make ripples. Then the stone does what in most cases?
Bounce.
No, and it goes to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So it's down at the bottom. That pond has changed. It will never ever be the same again. Because the water level has changed, there's an extra stone in there.
That's true.
However, you may not see a big difference, right? But if you take a small pond or a small puddle and throw a big rock into it, then you'll see it. So it all depends on how big the rock we can create. And the bigger the wave.
Okay.
So what I do is take 2 points, connect the dots, go into consciousness, and then whatever your body wants to do, and people react in different manners. Some people sway, some people do things.
Already.
Some people fall down, which is a lot of fun for everybody.
Okay, don't make me fall down.
Well, that's what the chair is for behind you.
Okay.
I have no control over what you do. Okay?
So moves away things.
Well, that's why we have Dr. Phillips here, just in case. I have yet to lose a patient.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
Okay. Done deal.
I have my permission to touch you.
You do.
Okay, good. So I'm going to look at where I'm feeling to come to. Is there anything that you'd like to work on? What I'm getting, and I got it before when we were on the chair, something in your shoulder.
My shoulder. Okay.
And so what we'll do is going to release and get a hip on the side.
Oh, we usually stand on one side.
Yeah. So
Only ground over.
instead of going to the shoulder thing, I'm just going to go to your. I'm going to do. All you need to do is just allow your body to do whatever it wants to do. Don't fight it. Don't
go for it.
And let's just go for a full feeling of health. This just the health that you should.
Okay.
The health that is you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to come up in here. Find a spot here.
Oh, I can feel that.
Just allow your body to do whatever it wants.
Am I going to knock you over instead?
Oh, I love this energy because I get just as much as you do. There you go. So, how does that feel?
Very giddy.
Isn't that neat?
That is neat.
Yeah.
Okay, what resulted as a result of that experience?
Well, what it is that you're all energy. You're what's called an interference pattern of energy. It's when you take different waveforms and put them together, right? And so, being energy itself, we know that mass, there's very little mass here. It's almost all space. The floor, it's space. Like if you had a grapefruit as your nucleus, the electrons that are floating around at the size of a plum would be about 50 yards away. So it's mostly space. So your space, your interference pattern is malleable in a sense. It can be manipulated. Now, what I do is by throwing another pattern in, it changes your whole electronic energy field. Emotion is energy.
Is that why you asked my permission then? Because you were...
Yeah, I ask your permission because I won't do anything without permission.
Okay.
If I don't ask permission to touch you, subconsciously you might go rigid and not allow me to enter. It generally won't stop it, but I just think it's a polite thing to do.
It is a polite thing to do.
And so with your energy pattern, or your pattern, it's the equivalent of taking a jello mold and smacking the top of the jello mold. The whole thing vibrates. So I take your emotional jello mold, touch it, and you vibrate, and sooner or later what happens, everything in your body just goes...
That's what it did.
It just goes... And just that energy into you changes your structure. In changing your structure, one thing corresponds to another thing, corresponds to another thing, corresponds to another thing, and something will happen. So over the next, right now, you may not even sense anything other than a good feeling, but maybe in 2 days from now, and I generally tell people, 2 or 3 days from now, start noticing how something in your life has changed with regards to you, your body or your emotions. And almost everyone, almost 99, at least 98 to 99% of the people I work on will tell me after I worked on them that they've had something occur in their life with their body or with their emotions that they weren't expecting. And sometimes we have like an ache in our toe or our toe hurts, but that's not what the problem is. Reflexology is a good example. All the organs in our body are exposed on our feet. It's the same thing. So somebody plays with your feet and affects your heart or your liver or your kidneys. This is the same thing. You may have an injury in your toe, and I'll work on your toe, but the pain hasn't released on your toe, but all of a sudden you go, wow, this is great, and then your toe stops. I've moved pains in people as well. So the pain went from their left knee to their right knee. You go, wow, what happened there? So, well, you just had a change. You had a resulting action to the process we did. I had one lady one time who literally came in and her neck was like this, and it's always like this, and her right hip is like this, and she walks like this. And she's in agony all the time, and she can't sleep and stuff like that. So she came to me, I did one process. I saw her a week later, and she was angry at me. And I said, what's wrong? She says, well, her hip's down like this, and her neck is like this. She says, I've switched, and now I can't sleep. I can't do anything. It's all your fault. And I started to roar. I thought it was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Exactly. And she said, what's so funny? She said, I can't sleep. I'm angry with you. And I said, it's because there was a change.
Yeah.
Don't you see? You've been like this for how long? 12 years. I said, you've changed. There's a change. That means we can help. And I did her again, and she'd straighten out, and she went right back to where she was again. And other people have worked with her as well. She's in a situation where she will not be healed. She's enjoys the process of the search for the healing. The experience or the search for the healing. But what's happened with her, she will now allow herself to make the change. There with her, I'd like to work with her on a therapy model.
That's a pretty brilliant testimonial that change occurred, though.
Yeah, it is.
I have to say.
I actually have a friend. He's on my website in the back of my business cards. I never got a verbal from him, but he came in and I've worked on him a couple of times. And then one day I noticed his right arm, like I was subconsciously brought to his right arm. And I said, "What's wrong with your arm?" I said, "It's your elbow." He says, "Yeah." He says, "I haven't been able to straighten out my elbow for almost 15 years. The rotor in it has ground to a halt. So he's never been able to go past 30 degrees. So I did one process with him. He went down like a ton of bricks. He came up, he went like this, he straightened his arm out, you could see his face went like this, and he turned his elbow. He looked at me, he said bye, and he went down, walked down my stairs. I didn't see him for 6 months because he was so used to this. But I've seen, like I said, I've seen bone shift, I've seen amazing things happen.
I believe it.
Amazing things happen. Things release. People with locked muscles release.
It almost seems like people don't know what to do now that things have changed for them. Like, how do I handle this now?
Well, it
won't work as an excuse for whatever it was that I wasn't able to do before.
Well, if you look at the spiritual side of it, again, I go back to the Bible. I love the Bible because it's a great book.
So do I.
Yeah, it's a good, just like most spiritual books are a good book. And it says if you have an evil spirit within you, and I'm not saying that these are evil spirits, but
no, yeah.
I'm just going to grab it. And it talks about having an evil spirit. This woman had an evil spirit, and so they exorcised the spirit and left, and then it came back with 7 of its friends because the space that
there was a group of them that
they came back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so what it is you leave this space open with nothing in there, and it comes back. And it's the same thing with pain. And I have a lady one time who, I love these examples because they're perfect examples of what I talk about in workshops. Her little finger is bent up like this, and it's consistent, it's always there. So I worked on her for a moment, and I took it and her hand straightened out. And as soon as she noticed it, you could see it slowly crawl back up, which was quite interesting. So I did something different. I said, let's do that again. So I put my hand over her hand, and I stepped on her toe. I put my foot on her toe.
That was a very nice.
No, lightly. And then when I pushed a little, and she, what are you doing? Nothing. And she put her hand down, and I said, well, that's great. Never mind, don't worry about it. And I walked away. And her friends started to laugh because they saw what I was doing. And her hand was straight. Her finger was straight. And it was like that for the next half hour, until her friends went up to her and says, look at your hand. And she looked, and sure enough, slowly, her hand came back up.
That's so sad.
Yeah. Now, that can be taken care of. It can be healed. It can be changed, because it was changed. But something in her is causing this to come back up. So what I would have to do, and that's after 30 seconds, maybe a minute.
It's like some kind of mental memory or something, or is it?
It's emotional.
Is it?
This is an emotional representation of
Because
something.
you've collapsed reality when you've straightened it.
Correct.
So her looking at it, the observer brings it back? Or?
The observer brings it back. In quantum physics, the observer changes the observed. And so in this case, what it is, it's a trauma that she has. She has a trauma. This trauma has caused this in her life. I did this. I broke the link between the trauma and her pain for a short period of time in this case. I didn't have a chance to work with her to go to the trauma and find out where it was and bring forth a difference.
So now, do you use Matrix for that as well?
I can use Matrix for that. I can use therapy for that. Matrix in this situation, I would use Matrix. What I would have done, because we're dealing with quantum physics here, energy, all realities are possible. Only so many are plausible, and only one
become a miracle.
Becomes the miracle, and everything folds into this miracle that we are existing in now. But the other ones all exist. So I can actually go into these other ones and help her with a different reality. So say I found a problem with you when you were 23 years old. Okay. Say she had a trauma.
Just in case.
Say I found a problem, a trauma in you at 23 years old.
Okay.
So what I would do is I said, let's go back to 22 years old. Choose a different reality from out here, bring it in, set it into place, and then allow the rest of your life to change according to this. As a result of that change.
Wow.
And how would that affect the trauma of today? What would happen is this would go away and it wouldn't come back.
Because it has no place to come back. It never happened almost.
It never happened. And it's the same thing that holds true with body parts. I can go into different realities in essence and change the body part. I don't go into a reality, pull one in, and take one in. But if I want to change your knee, I can change your knee. And you'll have a new knee. And all of a sudden what happens is the trauma around that knee dissipates. I had another gentleman, I'll use one more example. I had a gentleman who, I forgot what you call it, when your jaw doesn't lock up.
Jaw locked?
No, it's, anyway, it's a pain, and he had an accident, and his jaw went like this, and he's 60 years old. And he had this accident,
I know what you're talking about,
I can't remember the name of it, and so it really doesn't matter.
No.
And so I worked on him for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I realized there was a trauma around 34 years old. I said, you had a trauma.
You said you realized it, so now you got to tell me how you realized it.
Because I just know. The same way I can see the physical nature, I can also see where the trauma was. The number just comes to me. Sometimes I go backwards. The way Richard teaches it, he says start at the person's age and work backwards in 5-year increments. And you'll know when that person's, when there's a reaction. You'll feel it in your consciousness when there's a reaction. So I started it that way, but now I just look at a person and I go, the number comes to me, 17 years old, 23 years old.
I guess because you practiced it enough that it's evolved into something, becoming part of you.
It's a gift, if you want to call it. I think we're all capable of doing the exact same thing. It's nothing special per se, but it's something special in all of us, right?
But we all have our own methods and our own styles.
That's right. So I saw this in this individual, and I said, 34 years old, trauma, what happened? He said, oh, that's when I had my first car accident, and this happened to me then. And I said, okay, so
Bingo.
let's go back and heal that instead of healing this. So we went back, and I went to before the car accident. Let's just remove the whole car accident. Remove the whole car accident. He goes, it's gone. Where'd it go? It just disappeared. That's the first question everybody had. Where'd it go? I had a pain. Where'd it go? It's
gone. Be happy.
Yeah,
Say thank you.
Just forget about it all. Just think about another part of your body. It's like when you have a headache and a step on your toe, your headache stops to ache for a while because your toe is killing you. Your focus changes. But as your toe starts to feel better, your
I'm
headache
moving my
starts to come
toe
back.
back anytime I tell you about anything that's ailing me.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's as easy as that. It's quantum physics. It always works.
So tell me about the double PhDs.
The dual PhDs. Well, I've studied Kabbalic yoga, Kabbalic medicine, neurology.
What's Kabbalic yoga versus yoga?
Kabbalic yoga has specific. Each of the moves has specific
letters that go in.
They have letters, but they're made specifically, or they're ascribed to specific parts of the body, organ, or mind.
That's true in yoga too, isn't it?
In yoga, each day has a specific set of moves. Each day of the week, they have letters, as you say as well. Each day, each month of the year, of the calendar year, has specific moves that you start off and work
about
on.
that.
Yeah, and it's a regime that you go through, and it's a very short regime that you can go through. I don't practice it anymore because if I practice all the things I've ever learned, I'd never get out of the house or sleep. However, it's really interesting.
So you've taken on something else to do your exercising then, right?
Yeah, surfing the internet. No, I do. Yeah, I do other things.
Caught you there.
I actually like walking. I really enjoy walking and bicycling actually. Then from Kabbalah, we do meditations, different meditations. Where I do what I call light trance hypnosis, and I combine that with.
Is that the same as NLP?
No, this is like this is actually.
There's no trance hypnosis.
Well, NLP is it's hypnosis. It's no trance. It's just changing someone's
mental state.
Yeah, their concept of how they see themselves. EFT is very similar to that. I've studied that as well.
That's tapping, right?
Yeah, tapping. But the light trance hypnosis I really enjoy because I work with it in a meditation. And what I do is I take people into meditative states, and I'll do healings within the meditative state, or other things. I do some other things. If you want to take a vacation, I'll send you on a vacation for a while. And I really enjoy that. I so enjoy taking people on this little voyage into meeting their childhood. I can go in, and we can work on a process where we can eliminate a mind, a belief system within you in a meditation. Very simply, very easily, and it goes away and doesn't come back.
Sounds like fun. I want to go.
It is. Yeah, have me in one day with some people.
My clients on it?
Yeah, I'd love to have them in, and I'll take them on. I'd love to. I do it every time I do any type of workshop. I always take people on a little voyage, and people come out of that and they go, "Wow."
So now let's talk a little bit about the workshops you've done here. There's 2 topics we've covered. What would people expect if they were to come to your workshop? Like the manifestation work, the truth about manifesting, I believe it was called.
Yeah. Well, in the truth about manifestation, what I do is I go back to the beginning of our conversation, is where I talk about how and why manifestation is a reality, and one of the key.
You'll get a really nice surprise if you come.
Yeah. And
not telling what it is, neither is Corey.
I'm trying to think of a way to say it without anybody really knowing it. But manifestation, The Secret has talked about manifestation, and thank be to God for that movie and that book. It opened the door.
The Secret, you mean?
Yeah, The Secret. It opened the door. But it's missing a few key elements. Mm-hmm. And the biggest key element that it's missing, or it's misrepresenting, I think, is that it's a secret. because it's not a secret.
Right.
We all have this God in us. It's just a matter of being able to access that place. There are people on the earth today that can manifest things out of the air. Just things appear. And it's because they've got in touch with that ability within them that we all have. Manifestation is a actually very simple, very easy to do in one way. If you look at negative, I call it negative manifestation, but if I used to be really good at this one. If I woke up in the morning and I didn't want to go to work, I said, you know, if I had the flu, or you know, I wouldn't go to work today. 5 minutes later, I have a fever, not just
No, just not just the basics.
but I have a fever,
actually have.
and I wouldn't go to work. And some people, well, maybe you were just precognizant of what's going to happen. No, I've caused myself to.
It doesn't matter. It's all semantics, like you said.
And I have a friend of mine who called me up one day she's semi-impoverished. She had lost her job and she had her mortgage. She called me up, she's crying on the phone. I broke my tooth and I have to go to the doctor, and oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And it's so bad. And I said, I don't know, and we talked about it. I got off the phone and said, my gosh, I'm glad I've not broken my tooth. If I broke my tooth now, I would have a real problem. No word of lie. I went, I got a banana, I peeled the banana, I took a bite,
You broke
and I
your
broke my tooth on a banana. Yeah, I'm serious. Big chunk of my teeth fell off. Just, but then all was looking to happen and stuff like. No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's just it happens, and we do it all. Why did I say that? I caused this problem. Why did I do that? How come I did that? It's because
It's all back to that, which came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
And so as easy it is to do negative manifestation, it is just as easy to do positive manifestation, but we miss some. We miss some of the real, true secrets of manifestation.
But my understanding is supposed to be easier to do a positive manifestation.
Sure. Manifesting changes in our lives and things are very simple. They're not hard. It's when you want to manifest something from nothing, literally, something from nothing. It's a little bit more difficult. We've got to, it takes a lot of power. It takes a lot of power to create this type of manifestation. Right. And I'm not talking power. I'm talking about an internal power that we all have.
Right.
But it's like to change reality, to literally change it from nothing to something appearing, takes behind the scene strength. Behind the scene tapping into your God strength. And it's actually very simple to do.
So when people leave your class, they'll be able to do it? As you said, it's really simple
When
to do.
they leave my class, they will know how to do it.
Don't they know how to do it when they buy the book, The Secret?
No.
Don't they know how to do it when they buy the book, The Secret, and all the things missing from The Secret?
No.
So there's still something missing
There's
that they'll
still
get
something
from your
missing.
class.
There's still something missing. There's still something. Now, I'm not saying that I can manifest anything I want to, because there's always, and this is one of the things that I truly believe, is that I'll tell you in the way of a little bit of joke. I love jokes. This fellow I met one day, he says, I went on an interview for a job. He hadn't worked for 2 years. I went for this interview. It was amazing. It was exactly what I wanted. The money was perfect. Where it was, it's excellent. And he said, now I'm going to go home and I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to pray about it 24 hours a day. I'll give up anything to get this job. He said, I know this is my job. It is my job 100%. Nobody else's job. I know I'm going to get this job. And so every day he prayed to God. He said, this is my job. I know it. Thank you so much for this job. I'm so grateful for this job. Everything the manifestation workshops talk about. He did it all. And then the day that the position was supposed to be doled out, the telephone rang, and sure enough, it was the guy from the company. He answered the phone. Hi, how's it going? Great, wonderful. He says, John, I got some bad news for you. You didn't get the job. He slammed down the phone. He said, I knew I wasn't going to get this job. That's one of our problems. As much as we try to fool ourselves into believing that we believe, You have to
You
believe.
don't just have to believe, you have to know it.
You have to know. You have to, without a shadow of a doubt, know that this is going to happen. This is going to occur in your life.
Wow.
And some more stuff.
And some more stuff. That they have to come to the class to learn about.
Sure. I could tell them now, but then there would be no class.
And you'll also do a matrix energetics class, right?
Yeah, I do matrix energetics. I do, it's not just matrix. I talk about healing and what healing is all about, and healing yourself. And what I'll actually have some people, a couple people come up and have them do matrix on somebody else in the audience. So I'll pick somebody from the audience and actually give them a
taste
quick
of it.
course on how to do matrix.
Wow, that sounds
And they too will knock people back in their chairs. Almost guaranteed.
I want to learn this.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, thank you, Corey. I've exhausted my questions. Is there anything you want to share with the audience?
Other than, you know, I think we're all amazing people. I think we're all phenomenally amazing. Just realize your amazement. You know, just get out there and
What a great message.
and just remember, no matter what you're in, where you are, what you're doing, it's your choice. It is because you have chosen to do exactly what you're doing at this point in time. And if you can, and if you've chosen to do it and you do not wish to do it anymore, whether it be a belief, whether it be an action, whether it be smoking, whether it be weight loss, you can change it. You have the power because you are amazing and you have God within you to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Corey.